My name is Jen Kartner, and I am the Financial Aid Officer with Learner Success Services Financial Aid Office here at Bow Valley College. And this is our 2018-19 academic year financial aid information session. So right off the bat, I'm going to apologize because you guys can see that the screen is reflecting off my glasses, so hopefully that's not too distracting for you. Okay, let's get into it. What is student financial aid? So essentially, student financial aid is a government program that exists to cover your basic learning and living costs while you're attending school. It's composed of two primary components, loans and grants. The loans are low interest and they're offered by both the federal and provincial governments. When you apply to Alberta Student Aid, you are applying to both the federal and provincial loan programs. They're based on financial need at the time of application, and you need to repay them when you graduate or when you leave school. Grants are also offered by both provincial and federal governments, and they are also based on financial need at the time of application. However, grants do not need to be repaid so long as you complete your period of study. It is worth noting that if you drop to part-time or you withdraw from your program during your period of study, it is possible for your grants to be converted to loans, which you will then have to repay. So that's something to keep in mind. Basic eligibility criteria for full-time Alberta student loans. One, you must be enrolled in an eligible program at an approved post-secondary. Bow Valley College is an approved post-secondary institution. If you have any questions about the eligibility of your program, please don't hesitate to give us a call at the Financial Aid Office and we can check that out for you. You must be registered as a full-time student, which means taking a minimum of 60% of a full course load. At Bow Valley College, that means 9 credits. If you are a student with a permanent disability and you have applied for a reduced course load, you can be considered a full-time student if you're taking a 40% of a full course load or 6 credits. You must maintain your academic progress. You must have a financial need, and you must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have protected person status under Canada's Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Unfortunately, students with study permits are not eligible for government funding. Additional factors that could affect your eligibility include your credit rating. If you're a first-time loan applicant and you're 22 years of age or older, you will have to undergo a credit check when you apply for student funding. We do recommend that even if this is a concern for you, you still apply and just see how you're assessed. Your credit rating needs to be really bad for this to have an effect on your eligibility. So just apply and we'll take it from there. Another factor is if you have previous student loans in default, you will not be eligible to receive new student loans until those old loans are rehabilitated. So you need to get in touch with the loan agencies, so National Student Loan Service Centre or Alberta Student Aid, and make plans to rehabilitate those loans. And then once you have rehabilitated them, your eligibility can be reinstated. So that's not the end of the road. You need to deal with those defaulted loans first. Also, declaring bankruptcy while repaying student loans will affect your eligibility. So that's something to discuss with both National Student Loan Service Centre and Alberta Student Aid. Also, in order to be eligible to apply for Alberta Student Aid, you need to be an Alberta resident, which means that you have lived in Alberta for 1 year or 12 months without being a full-time student. If you have not lived in Alberta for 1 year without being a full-time student and you moved here from another province, you need to apply to that province for your student loans. If you're a dependent student and your parents have lived here for a year, then you are considered an Alberta resident, so you can apply to Alberta Student Aid. Likewise, if you're a new resident to Canada and you landed in Alberta, then you are eligible to apply to Alberta Student Aid. So student loans at Bow Valley College are for certificate and diploma programs in post-secondary. For full-time loans, you can receive up to $7,500 per semester in combined Alberta and Canada student loans. You can sometimes receive more than that, including grant funding, because grants are on top of your loans. But the maximum loan funding you will receive is $7,500 per semester. Part-time loans, you can receive up to $10,000 as a lifetime limit in Canada student loans. The lifetime limit just means that $10,000 is the most you can owe at any one time. If you pay that down, then you will be eligible to apply for loans once again. And you can access both the part-time and full-time applications at studentaidalberta.ca or studentaid.alberta.ca. Sorry, listed here. Grants, similar to the loans, when you're submitting an application to Alberta Student Aid, you'll be automatically assessed for eligibility for a variety of loans or for grants as well. And I'm not going to go through in detail every grant that's offered through the student loan programs or student aid programs. I'm just going to run through them fairly quickly to give you an idea, because all of this information will be on the application, and you'll be assessed based on what you submit. So with the provincial grants, there is the maintenance grant, which is up to $3,000 per semester, and some of the eligibility criteria are listed here. There's the Alberta Low Income Grant, which is approximately $250 per month for each month that you're in school, which is based on line 150 of your 2017 tax return. There's the Alberta Grant for Students with Disabilities. That is up to $3,000 per loan year, and is to be used towards services and or equipment that's required to help a student with disabilities succeed in school. There's the Alberta Part-Time Grant, which is geared specifically towards part-time students, and is up to $600 per semester. And then for federal grants, there's the Canada Student Grant for full-time studies, based on income and family size, and anywhere from $100 to $4,500 per loan year. There's the new Skills Boost top-up to the Canada Student Grant for full-time students, for students who have been out of high school for at least 10 years. And the amount of the grant is approximately $200 per month for each month that you're in studies. There's the Canada Student Grant for full-time students with dependents, and that is up to $200 per month of study per eligible dependent. The Canada Student Grant for students with permanent disabilities, which is $2,000 per loan year if you have a permanent disability. And the Canada Student Grant for services and equipment for students with permanent disabilities, that's $8,000 per loan year, or up to $8,000 per loan year, and those funds are also to be used towards the cost of services and or equipment required for students with permanent disabilities to succeed in school. And in order to qualify for any of the grants for students with permanent disabilities, you do need to submit what's called a Schedule 4. And in order to do that, you need to go make an appointment to see one of our accessibility advisors through Learner Success Services. And finally, there is the Canada Student Grant for part-time studies. And again, this is exclusively for students applying for part-time funding, and that's up to $1,800 each school year. At this point, I just want to make a distinction between full-time and part-time studies, or student aid, I should say. Full-time student aid will cover both your education and your living costs, or a chunk of those, whereas part-time financial aid is only meant to cover your education costs. So it will cover your tuition, mandatory fees, any books and supplies for your period of study, and also childcare. Whereas full-time funding will cover those education costs and also your living costs. So for full-time funding, as I just mentioned, your education costs include tuition, mandatory fees, books and supplies required for your period of study, and that information is provided by the institution. So if you're doing the online application, all of that information will already be inputted. If you're doing the paper application, you can bring in your more or less complete application to Learner Success Services, and we will complete the education cost section for you. And then with living supplies, Alberta Student Aid automatically assesses your living cost using a standard monthly budget. It's standard province-wide, and it's designed to meet the basic cost of living in Alberta. However, since a lot of our students live in Calgary, there are higher costs of living, so there is some recourse if the basic budget does not meet your cost of living. But on the flip side of that, you should not expect student financial aid to cover all of your costs while you're in school. So you will have to have some other sources of income or some other resources to pull on while you're in school, but it should cover enough to allow you to complete your program. So this is an example of the 2018-19 monthly living allowance that Alberta Student Aid uses. So as you can see, it's based on family size, and in a lot of cases, it's not all that much. So if you find yourself in a situation where the amount you've been assessed for simply is not going to be enough for you to pursue your program, you can submit a request for reconsideration, and you can submit a request on that form for additional funds based on your cost of living, and in that case you would submit a budget and also evidence of your living costs, and the government will take another look at that and may assess you for more money. So that's certainly an option for you. Also, childcare costs are covered in both full-time and part-time funding. Student Aid will consider childcare costs for dependents under the age of 12. You may be eligible for up to $724 per month per child without providing receipts, or if you do have receipts, you can be eligible for up to $1,200 per month per child. So as I mentioned before, student loans and student financial aid are not meant to cover 100% of your expenses while you're in school. They're meant to cover the majority of them and to make it feasible for people to attend school and concentrate on their studies. So further to that, the government expects most applicants to provide some resources towards their education. Alberta Student Aid expects you to have a contribution of $1,500, and Canada Student Loans expects anywhere from between $1,500 to $3,000 depending on your income from line 150 of your 2017 tax return. So what they do is they come up with your eligibility, your assessed need, and then they subtract $1,500 or from off the top of that, and that's what you're assessed for. There are certain parties that are exempt from this, and that includes single parents, students who are on AISH, income support, and CPP disability benefits. Also, students who have a dependent, have a permanent disability, are a current or former ward of the Crown, or have declared Indigenous status on their application. If you are a dependent student, and I'll go through the definition of a dependent student in just a minute, your parents' income will be considered in your eligibility, so you will need to provide line 150 from your parents' 2017 tax returns in your application. So the definition of a dependent student is essentially somebody who is not an independent student. And the definition of an independent student is as follows. You are a single student with a dependent child. you are or have been married or in a common law relationship. You have been out of regular high school for more than 4 years. You have been available to the labor force full-time for 2 periods of 12 consecutive months. And those 2 periods do not need to be consecutive. Or you're 23 years of age or older, or you are a single student with financial responsibility for a disabled or elderly family member. If you do not meet those criteria, any of those criteria, you are considered a dependent student and must submit your parents' financial information in your application. There are a few circumstances under which you can apply for special independent status. If you think you might fall into that category where you cannot get that information from your parents, please do give us a call at the financial aid office and we can assist you with that. Yeah, we can do appointments in person or over the phone. So whatever suits your needs better. Likewise, if you are married or in a common law relationship, your spouse's financial information will be considered in your loan application. So you need to submit your spouse's line 150 from their 2017 tax return. There are also a few exceptions to this. If your spouse is a student, if he or she is receiving federal or provincial disability benefits, or if they're receiving employment insurance benefits or income support. They do, their contribution is not required. So how is your award calculated? First off, both Alberta and National Student Loan Programs they have their own calculations. So they do this a little bit differently. They have different numbers that they use. However, the essentials are the same. Basically, they take your education and your living costs, they subtract your resources, and that is your financial need. Once they have calculated your financial need, they compare that with the student aid loan limit that is allowed for your study period, and the lesser of these two amounts is what you will receive. So how do you apply? First, you go to the Student Aid Alberta website, which is listed here. There is a worksheet available, and I just realized this slide says 2017-18. It should say 2018-19. So please, I really recommend completing the 2018-19 full-time application worksheet first. It allows you to go through all of the information that you'll need and gather that together so that when you sit down to do the application, it goes quite smoothly. We do recommend that you do an online application if at all possible. We've filled in some of the information for you, so that's simpler, and they are processed much more quickly, and you also get a real-time estimate of what you will likely be assessed for. So online applications are typically processed within 2 to 3 weeks. That said, if you're not able to apply online for whatever reason, you can contact Student Aid Alberta, or you can just print off the application from the website, and we also have them available here in LSS. And you can submit the paper application. You can submit it through us. As I mentioned previously, you can bring that application into us and we will complete the school cost section, and we can also submit it for you. It will take 4 to 6 weeks to process that application. So what happens next? It's really important to note that you need to keep an eye on your phone or your email or your text messages, however you told Alberta Student Aid you wanted to be contacted, because if they are assessing your application and they find that they require more information, they will contact you and let you know that you need to sign into Alberta Student Aid to find out what information they need. And it's important that you do that in a timely manner because your application will not move forward without that additional information. Once you've been assessed, you will be notified via text or email about your assessment. You'll get an assessment letter, and you'll also have to submit your Master Student Financial Assistance Agreements if this is your first time applying for a loan. If it's not your first time, then you've already done this and you don't have to do it again. So Master Students Financial Assistance Agreements, or MSFAAs, or loan agreements, need to be submitted before your funds will be dispersed. If you're married or common law, you'll also receive a declaration and consent form, which needs to be signed by your partner and returned in the mail. And then you must process your national MSFAA online, and your Alberta MSFAA is printed off, filled out, and then mailed back to Alberta Student Aid. And in both of those, you need to provide your direct deposit banking information so that they know where to send the money. So your funds are dispersed in a big chunk. You're given the total amount for each semester. So if you submitted for an application for 2 semesters, you'll receive your assessment that will tell you the full amount that you're going to get for those 2 semesters. And then they're divided approximately 50-50. And you get a big chunk in the fall, in August, September, for instance, and then you get another big chunk in January. And those chunks need to cover your tuition, your fees, your books, supplies, and your living expenses. So it's really important that you budget that money so that it'll last you your full study period. If you have difficulty with budgeting or you're worried about that at all, we do have a financial coach on staff here at Learner Success Services. So I really recommend, if that's a worry for you, you can make an appointment to see Blanquita, and she can take you through the budgeting process. So you will receive your funds when the following 3 conditions are met. 1, you've completed your MSFAAs, as we discussed. 2, your school, Bow Valley College, has confirmed your registration. And 3, you're within 1 week of starting school. So the confirmation of registration, it's important to know that the schools are not able to confirm your registration until approximately 30 days before the beginning of classes. They're not actually even released to us until about 30 days before the beginning of classes. And then it takes us a few weeks to work our way through all of the students who will be funded by loans. So if you've been assessed for your loan and it's sitting there awaiting confirmation, don't worry too much. We will be confirming your registration as long as you have your approved loan and you've registered for your courses. You're okay. If it's a week before and it's still not confirmed, then there might be a problem and you should give us a call. But otherwise, don't worry about it too much. Also, the earliest you can get your student loan money is 1 week before starting school. In reality, it's typically on the first day of classes or the day after, sometimes the day before. Further to that, you don't really need to worry about paying your tuition with those loan dollars because Bow Valley requests that the government, when we confirm your registration, we also request that the government sends us your tuition directly from your loan. In which case, those those fee payment deadline emails that you will get stating that your fees are due the day before classes start do not apply to you. We know that you have an approved full-time loan, and we know that that money is coming to us, so you don't need to worry about that. You do, however, need to confirm that your fees have been paid. There's 2 ways to do this. 1, it will show up on your Bow Valley student account, so check your MyBVC account frequently. Those payments typically show up by the end of the first month of the term. And 2, when you receive your loan payment in your bank account, you should not receive the full amount that you were assessed for. You should receive the amount that you were assessed for minus your tuition. So if you receive the full amount, that means that we did not receive anything. And if you have any questions about this, again, you can call the financial aid office and we'll help you out. So while you're in school, as a loan recipient, you do have some responsibilities, mainly to inform the government if there are any changes in the information that you've submitted on your application. You would do this through a request for reconsideration. or an RFR form, and those forms are available at Learner Success Services or on the Student Aid Alberta website. And those changes can include changes to your contact information, so your address and your phone number, change to marital status or number of dependents, or family income changes, and very importantly, changes to your course load. So if you drop to a part-time status, that is something that's going to affect your loan, and you will need to inform the government of that. If you're still in a full-time status, then you don't need to worry about it. I should also note that you do not need to report changes to your own personal income. That's a change this year, and so you can actually make more or less money than you submitted on your application, and it won't affect your loan. I already discussed this. It is your responsibility to ensure tuition and fees are paid each semester, and you need to keep an eye on your student account. I also really encourage you to check your email, your MyBVC email, because that's how we will be communicating with you. And it's a really good idea to register for your online services for each of the loans that you will be receiving. So setting up your account with the National Student Loan Service Center and with the Student Aid Alberta Service Center. That will allow you to monitor and manage your loans throughout the life cycle of your loan. And you will get an email from the Financial Aid Office with instructions on how to register for that. So don't worry too much about it. Just please do register. And again, check your MyBVC email, because that's where that will be coming to. And then everybody's least favorite part of the loan process, repayment. So there is a 6-month grace period once you've ceased to be a student, once you graduate or cease to be a student, from the last day of the month in which you cease to be a student. So say your classes ended in December 18th. As of December 31st, your 6-month grace period will begin. And that gives you 6 months essentially to get a job, so that you can begin repaying your loans. Now, for Alberta student loans, that 6-month grace period is interest-free. National student loans, that 6-month grace period is not interest-free. So if you have the opportunity to start repaying one of your loans, my recommendation would be to go for the national student loan, because you're already accruing interest on that. The Financial Aid Office does offer one-on-one loan repayment counseling and group sessions every semester. So if you're worried about that, if that's coming up for you, you can certainly participate in that. There's also a loan repayment handbook available on the Student Aid Alberta website, which is really good. And I would just really stress that if you are in a situation where you're going to have issues making your loan payments, make sure you contact National Student Loan Service Center or Student Aid Alberta, or both, and discuss the issue with them, because they're usually very flexible in working with loan recipients to ensure that they can pay things back in a way that works with their own financial situation. But in order to get those benefits, you have to communicate with the loan agencies. So please do that, so that you don't end up in a default situation or in a situation that's going to affect your credit. Finally, Learner Success Services has multiple training opportunities for students and staff at Bow Valley College. And one of the most recent areas that we've been expanding in is the area of mental health training. And we have a lot of programs that are available for free to students, including the ones listed here. So if you have any interest in participating in those at all, you can check them out at the website listed, bowvalleycollege.ca/mental health training. They're really great programs, and I really encourage you to check them out if you have any interest at all. And that's all I have for you today. So thank you very much for sticking around for the full session. If you have any questions about the loan application process, please contact Marcella Lewinson at 393-3131. Or you can email us at financialaid@bowvalleycollege.ca. We look forward to helping you out with this. That's what we do. We love helping students out. We really want to make sure that you're successful and that you are able to negotiate the loan process as smoothly as possible. So don't hesitate to get in touch. Once again, my name is Jen Karkner, and I am the Financial Aid Officer here at Bow Valley College, and have a great day.